By the 9 and 4, welcome back to the library, where today we're going to be taking a brief look at the nation of the Necratai. As you are more than aware, my perceptive patrons, this will be but an introduction to this nation and empire of ancient providence and modern relevance. For many within the realms, when the Necratai burst onto the scene in the ending years leading up to the Age of Stars, they were thought to be an entirely new faction. Very few, including the wise of nations that many would have thought would held such lore safe, were even aware that this was not an emergence, but a resurgence of these strange and powerful defilers of death and mockers of morality. Lost even further in the midst of their foundation and creation is the fact that the Necratai represent the first large-scale example and employment of necromantic work. Indeed, it would not be unfair to credit the foundation of the necromantic arts to the Necratai, as before their appearance in the historical record, scant as it is, things such as animated skeletons, zombies, or other more advanced forms of undead such as vampires, liches, or banshees were completely unknown to the majority of the realms. Any examples that did exist were the results of freak magical backfires or other strange yet similar circumstances. This, as well as a look at the name, does much to make clear that the Necratai is a nation of the undead. Founded at some point in the years of the War of Feather and Scale, but at some point after the infamous 36 seconds of the home city. The origins of the first Necratai are a closely guarded secret. However, it is known that the initial founders were led by a group of 4 heroes who, according to some of the legends, were advised and consoled by a mysterious 5th individual. They seemingly appeared from nowhere and acted as a counter to the vastly powerful and emerging Dragwa. The Necratai having claimed the deep tunnels and caves that course throughout the outer mountain ring of the Isle of Mist. For an unknown length of time, this war between the two was all that kept the Dragwa from becoming a world conquesting force, as they were designed to be. To be fair to the rest of the world at the time, though, the Wars of Feather and Scale and the spillover from it was of far greater and immediate concern than some strange floating island and the conflict that seemed contained within. However, sometime after the end of the Second War, with the summoning of the Daemon Vanson, the Necratai faded from even cursory mention within history. Thus, they faded from the realms, lost amongst the chaos of the forgotten years. However, the advances and practices of necromantic pursuits had already been spread far and wide in those years beforehand by those that had struck out from the Empire before its collapse. Thus, the Necratai remained unknown and forgotten until the years leading up to the Age of Stars, when once more the Necratai appeared. In a matter of a few months, their entire empire had been resurrected, and the conflict with the Dragwa was simmering once again. This war was only averted by direct action from the Inter-Sovereign Council, who called for and led negotiations that ended with the treaty that is still in effect between the two powers. The Necratai gained control of the outer half of the desert, as well as nearly the entire outer ring of the Isle of Mists, thus making the treaty far too valuable for the Necratai to worry about breaking. The Dragwa, for their part, begrudgingly accept the terms. However, the Necratai merely turned their sights to the only other major force of necromantic power within the world, that being the necropolis of pure evil. Pure evil who was a vampire god and member of the Voids, had founded the necropolis many centuries before, and the necropolis itself was still engaged in an active war against the elven nation of Avlin. The Necratai ended that conflict by not only destroying the mountain arcology that was the necropolis, they also destroyed the entire tunnel networks below, and did so in such a violent and sudden manner that it is counted as a near total annihilation of the necropolis and its residents. Only a blighted region of deep chasm and broken shards of mountain remain where the once mighty bastion of pure evil stood. How they managed to do this has a great deal to do with the nature of the underground rivers that flow in the dark depths of the Necratai's lands. These rivers not only ring the entirety of the Isle of Mist, but via ancient works of magic and other crafts. The various tributaries and side streams also connect throughout the deeps and across all of Jamamar's subterranean river systems. The entrances and exits to these routes are semi-morphic and shifting, and thus far only the Necratai seem able to navigate them with any measure of certainty or control. This, combined with the vast numbers of undead warriors and other creatures from the dark recesses of the Empire, would make them a threat to any who they set their sights on, as exhibited by the necropolis. However, considering the reason that they attacked and destroyed the necropolis, most of the world has nothing to fear from them. That reason is also the central and driving force of the Necratai, that being the faith of the Undying Flame, their central religion. The Undying Flame, which has a divine being associated with it, but not in charge of, is the Necratai's unique version of the better-known Blue Flame of the Flame-Forged humans. It would appear that via the power of the Blue Flame, the first of the Necratai, and thus the first of the undead, first denied death and the bounds of mortality. As such, those that have been reborn via the Undying Flame are those that have passed through death's embrace and returned via the flame with their minds and their souls intact. This trait also leads to a tenet of the modern Necratai and the source of their religious disagreement with the former necropolis. That being their total ban on slavery. No aware or sentient being may be held as thrall or slave under any form or circumstance within the Necratai's lands. This obviously includes the creation of intelligent undead that are not set free immediately. And this is a rather stark departure from the normal modus operandi of those who tend to employ the necromantic arts. But the High Lords of the Necratai will not allow any will to be shackled to another, for the flame frees all. Of course, there are exceptions to this rule, the two major ones being those found guilty of crimes by the courts of the Empire and thus turned over for service or other remuneration of the crime, and those slain by the tenders of the flame, the elite guard and wardens of the Empire. Even if the courts do find reason to entrap or enslave someone for a crime, the terms are explicitly enumerated, typically a set number of years, or until the wrong has been repaid or another task done to bring balance for the offender's acts. There is, however, no prohibition on the use of any mindless, or as the Necratai tend to refer to them, puppet or husk undead, skeletons, zombies, matters of flesh moved by magic but not will. So such beings are a very common sight within the dark streets of the 5 main cities that make up the Empire, along the mountain chain internally. However, these husks can be seen to be cleaning those streets as often as battling those of another necromantic master in those very streets. Between the ban on more powerful forms of undead being kept in thrall, and the intense cult-like nature of the High Lords and Flame-blessed with regards to the Undying Flame, those cities are still far from bustling. But this does not bother the High Lords of the Necratai, as they would rather have fewer, but truer adherents to the flame, than have to worry about constantly having to hunt down those that would flaunt the laws as they laid them down. One of the things that still allows for growth, albeit slow growth, of the Empire is their ability to allow others to be reborn via the Undying Flame. As long as the subject survives, which is not a guarantee, those that do will all become an advanced form of intelligent undead, mind and soul still theirs. The form of undead taken does seem to be in line with inborn tendencies and a bit of a random touch. While there are some that dispute that the mind is also changed to revere and worship the flame, as nearly all of those that have undergone the process are still faithful to the flame that allowed them to break death's bonds and become more powerful. However, since the people going through the process are only those that have gone through a very rigorous selection system created by the High Lords, before they're put to the Undying Flame for rebirth, this fanatical nature could just as easily be attributed to that process rather than the process of the flame. With their unity and faith of the flame, very few members of the Empire actively attempt to bring ruin on one another. They will, however, test themselves and each other with contests of necromantic might, battles held in the various caves or other parts of the Empire, with tiny clashes in the city. They will also compete for more mundane tasks, such as clearing new tunnels or construction tasks. These all serve to keep a steady flow of action and prevent the often ageless and immortal leaders and members of the various sub-factions within the Empire from going bored or stagnant. This also serves to keep the various other creatures that inhabit the darkness of their lands, many of them from the deeps or even darker places where the flows of the rivers link up to, under control and not a threat to the wider Empire or the world. And with this brief look of the Necratai Empire now complete, I want to thank each and every one of you, my perceptive patrons, as always, for both your time and your attention. Now, until you once more make your way to the library, I have been the recorder. And by the 9 and 4, be well, take care of yourselves and each other.